Pete Wishart, there are already 10 separate investigations, as I'm sure you know, into the Conservative Party's election expenses. So what's the point of another one?
Well, those 10 investigations are right and proper, and they will take their due course through the due legal process. What I've asked is for the Conservative Party as a national outfit to be investigated by the Metropolitan Police, because there's a few things that we know about this. One is this was all organised, this activity was organised at Central Office. These battle buses were organised from there. The accommodation expenses of these activists who stayed in these marginal constituencies were there. So what we have to see, if there was any systematic attempt to subvert the representation of the People's Act by trying to pass off candidate expenditure as national expenditure. And we know the Prime Minister has in fact conceded this. He tried to say this was just a minor trifling issue of misdeclaration or something was left out. We're talking about the integrity of our electoral system here. Electoral laws are in place to ensure that elections are fought fairly. It looks very clearly like the Conservative Party have broken those laws.
Right. I mean, there is some admission of an administrative error, which is not the same as what you're suggesting, which is that it was a deliberate intent. Do you not have confidence then in the police? Do you not have confidence then in the current police investigations that are underway, because they will be looking at exactly that?
Well, what the current police investigations will be looking at local issues, candidate expenditure in particular constituencies. What I'm asking for is something different, and that's for the Conservative Party to be looked at, because it's quite clear from the Prime Minister's admission yesterday that the law wasn't adhered to. Now, this isn't an optional extra when it comes to electoral law. This is a fundamental exercise ensuring the integrity of our elections. It has to be properly investigated. Obviously, something has definitely gone on. There's a concession from the Conservative Party on this. And let's leave the Metropolitan Police now to look at this properly.
Have you heard from them? I mean, do you know what form their investigation is going to take?
Well, I just wrote to them yesterday to
So you
have
haven't
a look
heard
at
anything
this,
yet?
and, I've not heard back yet, exactly. But, you know, I mean, we're looking at several occasions. I mean, I actually think this could possibly be on a par with Cash for Honours, which blighted the Blair government so badly about 10 years ago. There was an attempt just to dismiss, you know, casually, you know, like with the way that the law should be applied in these things. And, you know, I mean, this has been bubbling away for such a long time. I've asked for a couple of statements in Parliament from this government, and we've heard nothing back from them now.
Right.
Now is the time for them to be properly investigated.
Let's put that. I mean, similar to a Cash for Honours scandal here, misdeclaration, says David Cameron, but actually we were talking about a large number of marginal seats. Of course, we don't know whether it might or might not have changed that result, but the rules are there for a reason, Liam Fox. And if it's found that the party has overspent or has declared local spending at a national level in order to push their campaign locally, what would you say?
Well, the party was always very clear on the basic issue that it believed that it was operating within the rules, and that having a national bus inevitably would be promoting individual candidates when they were in those constituencies, and promoting the government's central case for electing a Conservative government. Right. Now, the Electoral Commission is looking at that at the present time. As you correctly say, there are police forces looking into individual candidates' returns, and each individual candidate is responsible for that. But frankly, I think the Metropolitan Police have got better things to do dealing with crime than dealing with an SNP political stunt, given that all these investigations are currently underway.
Right, you don't think it's important? Because actually the issue that Pete Wishart is saying is that there is important for the Metropolitan Police to pursue, not that it's not important at all.
I think it's important to let these investigations take their course and see what they conclude and then take it from there.
Except they are focusing on whether expenses came under the national battle bus. There is also a question mark over accommodation costs that could have been put under the national costings total, and that would also be against the rules. And that is what the Metropolitan Police would look at, whether it was centrally controlled in terms of directing expenses locally to the national budget.
Well, the Conservative Party admitted that those figures should have been declared. They have gone to the Electoral Commission as part of the information the Electoral Commission asked for, and the Electoral Commission will make a judgment on that and whether rules were infringed or not. In fact, the actual number in terms of money is quite small and wouldn't have made a difference to the overall accounts. But why on earth, when all these investigations are going on, would go through the nonsense of involving the Metropolitan Police when investigations are occurring at individual levels and constituencies and with the Electoral Commission? A waste of money and a political stunt.
I'll come back to you in just a moment, Pete Wishart, on the political stunt comments of Liam Fox. But firstly, isn't it always the case that parties, the Liberal Democrats, Labour and the Conservatives, blur a little bit the distinction between what is local and what is centralised spending in elections?
No. Look,
Really?
Actually, we have got really hard rules about election expenses. And it's because we do not want political parties buying elections, spending millions and billions like we see in the United States. And in fact, if you look at the last general election result, the real conversation was the Lib Dem collapse. And if you look in these marginals, many of them in the southwest, the accusation is that these elections were stolen. This is a very, very serious inquiry. It should have much more discussion in the Westminster Village. He's absolutely right. Yes, of course the Met should look at what went on in Conservative Central.
And what about Labour battle buses? So that should the police investigate where the Labour Party used a national battle bus and promoted candidates?
Liam, at the moment there is no suggestion of Labour fraud. What there is a suggestion that in 29 seats you misdeclared your spending, and in many of those seats you won against small margins with the Liberal Democrats. That is a very serious accusation, and it would go to the Conservatives stealing the election.
But there are 10 investigations going on with that.
Major development.
They're allegations. I'm sorry.
I hope it's wrong. I hope it's wrong.
Let me just leave it there. Can I just ask Pete Wishart, just before we let you go? I mean, these accusations fly on all parties. I mean, it's been alleged that Nicola Sturgeon's helicopter tour at the last election included some local campaigning. Are you confident that the cost of that helicopter was all properly declared?
Listen, we want national leaders to go to constituencies. I actually want David Cameron to come to Scotland.
But that wasn't my question. Are you confident it was properly declared?
The issue, I mean, there's always about what aboutify and all this sort of stuff. What this is about is the fact that the Conservatives bust loads and loads of Conservative activists, paid for them in accommodation, and tried to pass that off as national spending when it was quite clearly candidate expenditure. Now, the cavalier attitude of Liam Fox and the Conservative Party on this, I think, does a great disservice to the many, many people throughout this country who are very concerned about this. We're looking at election results. We think they might have been bought. There's a real question about a number of Conservative members of Parliament who would have been pushed over the limit if that had been declared as candidate expenditure.
Come back and tell us when you hear from the Metropolitan Police in response to your letter, but thank you for coming on to the programme.